Good morning. Today we look at Matthew chapter 23, verses 23 through 39, the end of the chapter. And as I said yesterday, this continues the woe to yous. And basically it's the scribes and Pharisees. And that Jesus is talking here. And he says, woe to you because you tithe mint, dill, and cumin, and you have neglected the weightier things, justice, mercy, and faith. And you think about that, he was saying, you're doing the right things on the outside. You are tithing the proper things. You're doing as required by the law that way, but you're forgetting about justice. You're forgetting about mercy. You're forgetting about the faith and the trusting of God. And when you think about the justice and the mercy and the faith, and you practice those things, then you're worrying and thinking more about the others than how you look to them. And that's what he's saying. You are tithing. On the outside, you're doing the right stuff, but on the inside, you're not practicing what you should. He says, if it is these that you ought to have practiced without neglecting the others, you blind guides, you strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. So you're picking on the little bitty things, little, inconsequential things, while you're letting huge stuff go by. You're worried too much about the little things and not about what's really, really important. And then woe to you, scribes and hypocrites. You clean the outside of the cup and of the plate, but inside they're full of greed and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisees. First clean out the inside, and, who are you on the inside? And again, he's saying you're doing the right things on the outside. You're looking good on the outside, but inside you're anything but pure at heart. You are not at all what you should be and who you should be. He says, clean the inside of the cup so that the outside also might become clean. Just because you look good on the outside doesn't mean that inside you're good. And that's, I got some empty pails here in my shop that I put wood scraps and stuff in at times, and on the outsides of some of them are kind of grungy and dirty looking and dingy looking, and others look really good on the outside. But some of them on the inside, they got stains and they got junk, and this is what God's talking about. What Jesus is talking about here. It's just because like this pail that I've got sitting right in front of me here looks pretty nice, but on the outside, but what's inside, who you are, who you really are, when it gets right down to the nitty gritties of how you treat others. And, you can be dressed fancy, you can be clean, you can smell good, you can do all of this stuff. But when you see someone that's having a problem, when you see a need that you don't do anything about, when you see the injustice and the bad stuff that's going on in the world, and you don't try to make a difference, you don't try to make it right, this is what Jesus is talking about. That, you clean the inside of the cup. Make sure that the inside of you, who you are, and what you do and what you think, and, on the outsides we might, look like we talk to people, look like we accept people, but on the inside we're judging them. We're thinking we're better than they are. We don't want to talk to them because of this or this or this or whatever. And rather than, figure out, okay, what's going on, and who is this person? Get to know a person, and don't just go on outward appearances, but this is based on both ways. Don't just go on the outward appearance, but reach out, care, to be the best person that you can be, and to seek justice, to seek mercy, to to reach out to others that way. And I see examples of that, so often in things you read. You go, some people put other people down for the jobs that they do, for the profession that they are. And, if we can't have airline pilots without the people that design them and build them, or the mechanics that work on them. We can't have a nice house or a building to be in without a general contractor who builds it, without a plumber, without an electrician, without, we can't go out to eat a meal without the waiter, the waitress, the cook in the back room, the person that cleans the table. There so often, we kind of judge without thinking about some of these people. And I'm not saying that you and I do that, but I'm saying that so often it happens in the world that there are, and Jesus is comparing these scribes and Pharisees to the type of person that would look down on somebody else for being just a whatever it might be, and I remember, when I was graduating from high school, it was, oh, you got to go to college. You got to get a 4-year degree. That's the only way you're ever going to make it in the world. And I wanted to do one thing, and things just didn't work out the way that I was hoping and planning and thinking about. But, in general, life has been good. But because we need those. We need educated people. We definitely do. In many different ways. We need them educated to be teachers, to be scientists, to do all of those jobs. And we need the plumbers, and we need the mechanics, and we need the electricians, and we need this balance. And we need to be accepting and reinforcing of all of them, rather than, putting ourselves on a pedestal. And this is what the scribes and the Pharisees, maybe not so much, the scribes get thrown into this as well. And the scribes were basically those who were in charge of, doing copying, doing the paperwork and stuff. But they were held in a little bit more esteem that way. So Jesus is speaking to them. And in verse 27, he says, "Woe to you, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which on the outside look beautiful, but inside they are full of the bones of the dead and all kinds of filth." And that's true. We, in the tombs there aren't, inside of them, there's, today, in our cemeteries, under the ground, it's caskets, and it's, but on the top we have them, nice green grass and marker stones and all that, but what's underneath. So again, he's talking about what's inside your hearts and what's inside your brain. So he says, so you also on the outside look righteous to others, but inside you're full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. And there's just to be a hypocrite is something I really hope never to be thought of. And maybe some people do think that of me. I have no idea, but I try to be who I am, in all ways. And this is what Jesus is talking about here. He says, "Woe to you, for you build the tombs and prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the bloods of the prophets. We would have been better than them." No. We can look at that and we can say that we would be better than our ancestors. But are we? Are we really better? Do we try to be better? Or do we just, kind of play on all of those things that way? In the last part of chapter 23, Jesus laments over Jerusalem. The city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. And then and here's a reference to his being God. He says, "How often Have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers a brood under her wings, and you are not willing? How often have I, God, in the form of Jesus, sent prophets and people to you, and yet you're not willing to listen? And so the challenge is for us, just as it was for them, to listen to God's word, to hear God's word, to live God's word the best we can, and to be accepting and reinforcing of all others in what they do as well.